Hey, my handsome ladies and gentlemen, this is Shmeaty. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome, if you are new. I've got a battle submission today featuring friend of the channel, Potato, and also featuring a Pokemon you may not be expecting. Now, DEWGONG is a very solid pick already in the Open Great League. However, Potato wanted to try out something a little different. DEWGONG, as you may or may not know, has access to Legacy Aqua Jet, and Aqua Jet had been buffed at the start of the season. So let's just take a look at what triple Legacy DEWGONG is able to accomplish in the Open Great League. Starting things off, we've got a very nice lead, Tinkaton into Dragonite. Not a worse lead in the game for Dragonite, at least not to my knowledge, maybe Alola Ninetales. They are going to bring in a Corviknight, which is one of the hardest answers to Tinkaton in the meta, so I'm a little confused as to why they brought that in. But we are just going to bring in our DEWGONG, fire off the Icy Wind, and Icy Wind is going to do a sizable amount of damage onto the Corviknight, except for the fact that Corviknight's abysmally bulky and nothing actually does that much damage to it. They're going to fire off a Sky Attack. Now that its debuff does not really do much of any damage at all, and I swear those sand attacks are doing about 0 damage each, we're going to fire off the Aqua Jet. Aqua Jet gets the shield, but we get another Aqua Jet here in 4. So if this Corviknight wants to maintain switch advantage, they are going to unfortunately need to double shield, and that's exactly what they do. Honestly, yeah, we're just going to let this go. I don't even think the Sky Attack KOs. Sky Attack is a very poor move here. Yep, does not KO. And we make another Aqua Jet, forcing them to throw all of their energy here. Now that we put up this shield, I'd imagine we throw the Icy Wind. Dragonite comes in for the snipe, so they fought really hard, gave up both shields for switch advantage, only to not keep switch advantage. That's an interesting play. We are going to fire off the Play Rough, does take out the Dragonite, and now what is it they decide to bring in here? They're thinking about it for quite some time, and it's going to be Toxapex, so they really didn't have a strong response to the Tinkaton. As Tinkaton, although the Fairy Winds are resisted, we have access to super effective Bulldoze here, and we can start ramping up the damage once we get a debuff. It's a coin flip for the debuff with Bulldoze, so it is going to be a little uncomfortable taking Brian after Brian. They tried to catch our Bulldoze on 5 there, but we're just never going to throw immediately. There's not really a reason to. Bulldoze onto the Toxapex, probably going to get the debuff this time. Nope, we're just going completely debuffless this game, and we can stay in with the Tinkaton and force the Toxapex here to throw energy, and once they throw energy, we'll be able to just bring in the Golisopod, or we could bring in the Golisopod without them throwing energy, because honestly, Sludge Wave is a pretty powerful move, but from a Toxapex, maybe not so much. GG's to this trainer. The next lead is going to be a favorable one. It's going to be Tinkaton leading into Annihilate, and versus the non-Shadow Annihilate, they can really only ever make this uncomfortable in the 2-shield scenario. We are going to go ahead and let this move go. It can only ever be a Rage Fist because they only threw 7 counters there. You need 8 for the first close combat. Bulldoze is going to grab a shield. Very safe bait there. We safe switch into Golisopod looking to bait something out. Unfortunately, we bait out a Pokemon, which is probably on the worst spot for it to be on our team, but this isn't necessarily the worst thing ever. They are going to be able to fire off a move here, and we're just going to go ahead and let it go. Content with the fact that, unfortunately, if it is going to be an Acrobatics, goodbye Golisopod, but we can get something more favorable aligned onto it momentarily. They actually bait with the Aerial Ace, and we are able to land a second X-Scissor here. So we are actually going to put up a shield as another Aerial Ace will KO, and now we're just looking to pivot out back into the Tinkaton, looking to fire off a Play Rough onto the Annihilate. Annihilate is going to strike first with the Rage Fist. Rage Fist would potentially KO from that range, so we are going to commit to another bait. This is a filthy bait, and we are going to grab a shield. That bait actually will allow us to make the Play Rough, and we would have gotten KO'd by 1 further counter there, so I think they committed to the farm down. Nevertheless, Play Rough takes out the Annihilate, and now they have a very tough decision here. What is it they decide to bring in? They decide to show us the third? No, they're going to bring in the Jumpluff, which is going to die to 1 or 2 Ice Shards here. They are going to fire off a move here, probably going to be the Acrobatics. It's an Energy Ball Jumpluff. What is this? Bastiodon! Okay, well, unfortunately, we are going to lose that game. GG's nonetheless. It is going to be a fantastic lead in the next game. Tinkaton into Jumpluff. Tinkaton not only resisting Jumpluff's standard moveset, but every single move Jumpluff can learn in Pokemon Go currently. So they are going to safe switch into Galissapod, firing off an Aqua Jet first, and getting to deny us of a Fairy Wind Sneak. But that's fine, because we're still going to be in a healthy enough range after eating that Aqua Jet, where we can fire off a Play Rough, then counter switch with our own Galissapod. Galissapod is going to win CMP versus theirs, and get an X-Scissor off. This damage is not negligible at all. We have them now in the deep red health. Unfortunately here, I think they're going to be able to make a move before we're able to get the full Shadow Claw down here. We've got a decision to make. We're actually going to commit to just saving shields because we know that they have a Jump Bluff on lead, so not really the best idea ever to keep a Galissapod alive. And now we have our choice here, going to bring back in the Tinkaton, and Jump Bluff is not safe to come back in. It is going to be a Marowak in the back, and we're going to be able to fire off a Play Rough. Getting this damage or a potential final shield from this opponent is going to be massive. Big damage onto the Marowak, and now in comes the DEWGONG. DEWGONG hitting the rest of this team for super effective damage. They are going to bring in the Jump Bluff, forced to bring in the Jump Bluff. They have no other play they can make, and now we're going to fire off an Icy Wind onto the Jump Bluff. They have to shield it. It's double super effective, and now that they've been debuffed, they kind of don't even need to shield this move. We are going to commit a shield here in case it's an acrobatic, still would do a sizable amount of damage, but now we can fire off an Icy Wind, and once again, there's just nothing left for this trainer to do as they have the Marowak in the back, and even if they make a Rock Slide is not going to be enough to KO the DEWGONG from this range. And we've got the full Zero Bubble of the Legacy Aqua Jet, perfect use of an Elite TM. Getting into the next game, it's going to be Tinkaton leading into Quagsire. Quagsire, of course, having an advantageous matchup here. We're going to be looking to switch out immediately, and we safe switch into Galissapod. Galissapod is going to be met with a Spiritomb. Spiritomb, of course, is going to be able to get some pretty decent damage onto us with a potential Rock Tomb, but they play into the CMP tie, lose the CMP tie, and Galissapod's going to be able to go for the Aqua Jet. Aqua Jet, of course, having 5 more base power is the better move to go for in neutral situations. We probably could have shielded it and committed to a farm down, but we've got better ideas, looking to bring in the Tinkaton for the Fairy Wind farm down. And honestly, what is the Spiritomb going to throw at us? Well, nothing, because they don't make a move. Back in comes the Quagsire, but this is now a different matchup. Now that Tinkaton has so much loaded energy, I'm going to be able to fire off a Play Rough at the Quagsire. Quagsire decides to no shield, and now we bring in the DEWGONG. They can, of course, go for the super effective Stone Edge here. We look to throw the Aqua Jet at them, the sneaky Aqua Jet, and they do throw the Stone Edge. It wasn't a CMP tie, so this is pretty nice for us. We are going to double shield the DEWGONG, and DEWGONG of this much energy is going to be a force to be reckoned with, especially because they've got a Roserade in the back. Is this a zero shield Roserade? What is happening? No, Roserade's got 1 shield, but it's not going to be able to make a super effective move in time. If they were on Leaf Storm, they were short of the Leaf Storm there. So they tried to commit. Down goes the Roserade, down goes the Quagsire. GG's to this trainer. Another game, another Mud Boy. It's going to be Tinkaton leading into Swampert. Same thing as last game. This is a disadvantageous matchup. We are going to safe switch into our Galissapod, which is swiftly met with a Morpeko. Morpeko, of course, is going to one-shot Galissapod once they get to their first Wheelio, but it's alright. We're going to be able to grab a shield with our X-Scissor, and that's pretty much all our Galissapod is good for here, so we're just going to go ahead and let it go. Throw away the Galissapod, because evidently it is not going to be having too much of a fun time if we start committing shields onto a Morpeko. They are going to be able to make a second move here, but this is at worst a resisted Aura Wheel, so we are going to no shield. It still does 50%. Tinkaton's pretty bulky. That is devastating damage. However, they are going to need to start respecting Bulldozes, which is a pretty good situation for us. We actually get the debuff, and they live on 1 HP. They've got a Talonflame in the back. This is not looking too hot. And now, we throw a move on 4. Talonflame may be bamboozled here. Do they think it's an Icy Wind? They no shield, and it's an Aqua Jet. It does massive damage, and they are going to only be able to make 1 move here. Now that we have landed the Aqua Jet, this is Ice Shard downrange. They get taken out by the Ice Shard that snuck. In comes the Swampert, and the trainer has been thoroughly bamboozled. Reaching for the top left button, GG's. In the next match, it's going to be Tinkaton Mirror, and we are going to build a little past our initial Bulldoze so that we have some residual and fire off a Bulldoze on 7. Bulldoze on 7 seems to be a winning playstyle as our opponent went for the same idea. We get the defense drop, which is pretty nice, but we are not going to be staying in for very long as we switch into our Golisopod. They are looking to make a catch of our Aqua Jet on 5, but we hold on to our energy and fire off an X-Scissor at the incoming Lapras. Lapras hoping and praying they were going to be able to catch our Aqua Jet there, but they're going to get outpaced to double X-Scissor and hit with 2 X-Scissors first. X-Scissor number 2 onto Lapras does do a sizable amount of damage. Lapras now in the red health, going to fire off a move onto the Golisopod. And Golisopod has done its job, gotten the Lapras very low, so even if it's a Skull Bash, which it is, they are very content with just letting the Golisopod go. Going for the farm down with the Tinkaton, but Lapras makes a last second move. Not the best situation ever, but we're going to go ahead and let go of the Sparkling Aria. Return switch into their own Tinkaton, met with a Bulldoze. Bulldoze, of course, not going to be enough to KO their Tinkaton, and they CMP sack swapped. So we have the decision to make here whether or not we want to shield up our Tinkaton here. Not going to go for it. Bringing in the DEWGONG, now has 2 shields, but there also are 3 Pokemon for us to get through. We are going to shield up whatever move this is, and it is, of course, going to be the Play Rough unless they were really fishing for a debuff there. Down goes the Tinkaton, and now they have a decision to make. They really don't want to bring in the Lapras, which is so low on HP. It would get Ice Sharded down. It's only really good for a catch now, so we get to see their third, and it is going to be a Feraligatr. Feraligatr going to fire off a move onto the DEWGONG. DEWGONG easily able to live, especially now that we've landed the Icy Wind debuff. We're going to go for yet another Icy Wind debuff here, not quite yet showing that we don't have Drill Run. They double shield, and this is a massive spot for us to be in. We're going to overfarm because we do anticipate that they are going to try to catch. We get the double up on the Aqua Jet. Aqua Jet onto the Feraligatr is going to do substantial damage, so if they are not doubled up right now, they will lose this game. Aqua Jet is going to be launched at the Feraligatr. Please tell me they are not doubled up here. Aqua Jet, oh man, they doubled up on the Hydra Cannon. We played to every win con we could, but we fall just short of getting that win. GG's. What a heartbreaker that last game was, but now we lead Tinkaton into Claydol. Yet another heartbreaker, but we do have 2 better responses. So we safe switch into Golisopod, met with the Furret. Unfortunately, Furret has a commanding matchup here, as 2 moves are not going to be enough to KO the Furret, and Shadow Claw does next to no damage. Furret, Sucker Punch no way, has its pick of the litter whether or not it wants to Trailblaze and go for a Sucker Punch farm down, or go for the Double Swift. Either way, it's going to be a fine matchup for the Furret. They go for the one Trailblaze farm down here, which is pretty tough for us. They should probably never commit a shield here. We go for an undercharge here to maximize the farm that our incoming Tinkaton is going to get on this Furret. They are going to fire off a move, but all moves are resisted from the Furret onto the Tinkaton, unless they were running Trailblaze and Dig for some reason. They didn't show us Swift yet, so who knows. We're switching as quickly as we can into our DEWGONG, and now this actually isn't that bad. It would be a little better if only we had Drill Run, but this is a triple legacy DEWGONG video. We don't mention that move. Going for the Icy Wind onto the incoming Drapion, and Drapion is of course going to always shield there because they really don't want to eat a super effective Drill Run from the range that they're at. This Drapion may be thinking that we are a degenerate going for nothing but debuffs here. We're overfarming as much as we can, and now they are going to be able to land a Crunch here, but it is now debuffed, so not the worst spot ever. The Crunch does still do a sizable amount, but we are going to be able to land the double Aqua Jet onto the Drapion. But if they want to keep the Drapion alive, they will have to commit a shield. In comes the Claydol, and Claydol is going to be met with an Icy Wind. Are they going to be able to pull this game off here? Let's see. We're looking to make the Aqua Jet, making the catch onto the Tinkaton, and that should be game over. We are 1 away from an Aqua Jet here. They go for the Rock Tomb, maybe looking to maximize their farm with the Claydol. Looks as if it was a slight undercharge there. I'm not entirely certain. Maybe Claydol is just that little damage dealing, and Tinkaton is just that bulky. We are looking to land the Play Rough here. Is this a CMP tie? If this is a CMP tie, we've actually just masterfully played this game. It is the CMP tie. Claydol lives on 1 HP but does not have 2 moves. So once DEWGONG comes back into the field, this game is a win. GG's. We've now made it to the final game of the video. It is Tinkaton leading into Corviknight, an absolutely devastating lead for us. We're going to save switch into Golisopod. Golisopod is going to, of course, be weak to the flying typing of Corviknight, but we're going to be able to outpace and fire off this Aqua Jet before they're able to hit back with the Sky Attack. Corviknight now launching a Sky Attack at the Golisopod. Golisopod lives on about 3 HP. In comes the Azumarill, and we're firing off an Aqua Jet onto the Azumarill. Of course, like we said, 5 more base damage. It is the more efficient move to go for in neutral situations, or in that situation where both moves are resisted. We are going to see the Tinkaton getting brought into the Azumarill, and since the Azumarills are all still running Play Rough and Ice Beam, this is a fantastic matchup for the Tinkaton. Tinkaton connecting with the Play Rough. This is still a very slow matchup to play out, not the most entertaining one ever, but it is what it is. We'll go ahead and no-shield every single move from this Azumarill. Azumarill, Play Rough number 2, is going to connect onto our Tinkaton. And speaking of Play Rough, we get the Play Rough, but it lands onto the Corviknight. We're bringing in our DEWGONG here. DEWGONG has its work cut out for it as Corviknight's able to make a last-second move. We are going to have to put up a shield here. This is getting very dire, very close. They have 2 shields. We are at a shield disadvantage with a DEWGONG and a low HP Tinkaton in the back. We're going to fire off an Icy Wind. In comes a Shadow Primeape. Shadow Primeape having to commit the shield there, and now they are going to fire off a move here. It's all up to this. Is this a Rage Fist? Is this a close combat? It's a Rage Fist, not the best situation ever. Clicking on the Icy Wind, they decide to make a catch onto their Azumarill. Azumarill is now going to be able to easily sponge the Icy Wind. We go for the undercharge so we can get as much farm as we can on this Azumarill. They are going to be able to make a Play Rough here though. Is this going to do enough damage? Not quite enough. We are 1 short of the back-to-back Aqua Jets here. It all comes down to this. If they make a move, we are cooked. Aqua Jet number 1, of course, grabbing the shield. Aqua Jet number 2. Is this enough to KO the Shadow Primeape? DEWGONG's a very bulky Pokemon, but Aqua Jet is just too good. GG's to this trainer. If you made it to this point in the video, thanks so much for watching. Now, would I recommend Aqua Jet DEWGONG to you? Unfortunately, I will have to say this is more of a moveset that errs on the side of just having fun than something I can recommend in good faith for you to Elite TM to get some elo climbing going on. But what I will say is, when expertly navigated, almost anything can get wins. So thank you so much to Potato for the battle submission today. I hope you guys all enjoyed today's video. With all that being said, I've been Shmeaty. I hope to see you all again next time. And have a good rest of your day. See ya.